Hi, my name is Newell Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to take a look at our urban worm bag that has the European Nightcrawlers in it. Now, this system has been going for many years now at this point, and I've been doing updates almost fairly consistently with times where there's a little bit more time in between, but this system has always been seeming to do really well. Now, I have a large feeding to go in there today. It has been a while since I've updated it. Last time I think that I showed a video, I was actually added a red shirt or a shirt to the bag that had food in it to kind of create a barrier between that and the part that I want to harvest. Now, it's getting cold outside. I didn't quite harvest it in time, but I will be harvesting it pretty soon. So with that, we still need to add food to the top, though. Make sure the worms have food to migrate to, and that way they continue to move upward into the system and not downward into the area that I want to harvest. So with that, I have watermelon. I'm going to add some, of course, my food cycler output that I have. And along with that, I am probably going to add some diatomaceous earth as well, which is a form of like powder. But at the same time, it also prevents bugs from getting into the system because it tends to kill them. So with that, I hope you enjoy this video. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. I'm actually looking for questions now as far as systems and issues that you're having. And that way I can make videos on how to help you fix those issues. And if you have those issues, somebody else probably does as well. I know I've talked about a lot of issues before. I've gone over watermelons and lemons in your system and pineapple and coffee grounds and all these different things. But sometimes something new does come up that maybe I haven't seen before. So please leave a comment down below. And with that, I also have some links to some of the gear I'm using today. Please take a look at those and click those links and if you're interested in purchasing something before the holiday. So with that, let's take a look at this bin and see how it's doing. All right, here is our urban worm bag that has our European Nightcrawlers in it. And again, you can find a link to purchase an urban worm bag if you're interested. This is actually a really good system I found, especially for people that have the space for it. I know some people can actually keep these outside. I don't because, well, my area just wouldn't work very well for having this outside. I don't have anywhere to really put it. But if you're in an area that's somewhat warm, this would be a great system to keep outside. And just make sure that you don't put it in the sun. You don't want to overheat your worms if it's, someplace that's warm enough. All right, I got something in my glove here real quick. Let's shake that out. And by the way, there's probably a couple of you that wonder why I wear gloves. My hands tend to dry out in these systems and then will crack and bleed when I work with them. So that's why I just started wearing gloves and I just found that it just works. Okay, now this system had the white shirt in it. So this feels very dry. But it is starting to hopefully be eaten up a little bit, or a lot. Look at that. Actually, it was a lot of bit. Almost the entire bottom of this is gone. That's actually pretty good. They've eaten a lot of this material here. So let's just take a look in the center section here. It's a little drier than I'd like in here. It has been a while since we've checked on this, but let me just move this on that side. There we go. Hopefully you can see this pretty well. It's hard to tell sometimes on camera. Look at this material that's coming out of here. Look at this fantastic looking material. We do have some smaller worms in there, if you can see them. So they're a little small right now. I think that's because there's not a lot of moisture in here. And worms will tend to shrink down when there's not enough moisture, but there are a lot of worms in here. I just think they need a bath, kind of bring them back up to size. The material looks fantastic in here. I have to say, this system has been doing really well. I've harvested it multiple times. The European Nightcrawlers seem to really enjoy how I'm feeding them and everything, and they just seem to really like being in this system. So, kind of a weird pocket over here of different colored material, a little bit more brownish. Actually, there's a white. Let's just see. I don't know if you can see that in there. There's like a white worm right there. I'm pretty sure that is actually a worm and not not something else. I think it just hasn't gained its quite full pink coloring yet. Although this could also be some other type of nematode or whatever that's in here that's growing in the system. But look at this. You can just see this material looks great. This is ready to be harvested, really. I know I need to. I've not been very good at harvesting these systems. They do tend to just continually shrink down and, not really build up with stuff. But with that, this material looks great. This right here is nice, rich, dark material. Again, though, just maybe sort of move this around a little bit. These shirts. This is gone. I mean, look at this. You can see how much they ate here. Just the entire center section was just consumed by the worms as they wanted to get to that food, and I didn't quite harvest it in time. We're going to go ahead and make another little pillow here for them as far as food goes. So with that, we're going to leave everything else in the system as is, and what we're going to do here is we're going to add a huge feeding. And the first thing I'm going to do, let me just grab some of my Vitamix, or my food cycler, I should say. I think they were sold by Vitamix to food, or to food cycler. So let me add some of the output in here. This stuff, I know that there's a lot of people that probably don't like these, this entire thing, right, with the grinding up your food and everything. And I have to say, I understand where people are coming from, but it's a great way to deal with food. I mean, with waste food. I mean, it really is. This stuff just, it makes it where it's shelf stable. I leave this out on the counter. There's no bugs in it or anything. It's actually very handy for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix this up, and then I add it to these systems, and it still gets consumed by worms. I can also, if I maybe something a little smelly in here, such as I do run a lot of onion through this as well, and maybe I don't want to add onion to this or garlic or things like that might cause some issues with the worms. Well, then at that point, I can just throw it outside in the yard or in my garden directly. So it's, for me, this has been a very handy thing right here to have this food cycler going. So with that, all right, so we've got our first section in there. Now the next thing I want is adding more food. We're going to get a fairly large feeding here. Sorry, my glove's a little wet, so I'm trying not to touch everything with it. But they're going to get some frozen watermelon here. We're going to throw that right on top along with all the water, which is why I added quite a bit of water, but I don't need a ridiculous amount because, well, this has a lot of water as well. So now we've got watermelon in here. And one thing that's nice, it is winter outside, it's cold, but this stuff is cold as well, but these worms seem to thrive in these cooler temperatures, and they do really well. The African nightcrawlers I have, if I threw in something like this, I'd really have a lot of issues. They really want those higher temperatures, but these European nightcrawlers seem to actually thrive when I throw in cold food, especially during the summer. As long as it heats up, and it will, they're perfectly fine with it. Now, there is one other thing that I wanted to add. I'm just trying to find it around me. I've got too much stuff going on here. I wanted to add some of my biochar as well. So I've got a bucket here. I'm just going to show in the video here real quick, full of water that has bits of charcoal mixed in with it. And we're going to go ahead and grab a whole bunch of that. And we're going to go ahead and dump that on here as well. And look at this. It turns everything black. It just soaks up, and it's going to be fantastic once it comes out of here and I put this in my garden. So, and this is already microbially rich as well, because this is actually in leftover fish water that I soak all this biochar in to begin with. So I'm just going to rinse this out and just pour one more thing of water here. I'm not too worried about there being overwatering the system. It's pretty dry. Worms need water. That's how they breathe. And there's just a little bit more. So you can see how that just sort of soaks in everywhere. And I do have a bucket, by the way, and if you do this in your house with a urban worm bag or a Vermibag Max or Mini or whatever you're running, I do recommend having a bucket underneath to catch any liquid, especially if you're using watermelon. So I'm just going to show you right here. I do have a bucket underneath right here, as you can see. It's actually a little bit of brown from the last time some water ran through the system. But that way, if there's any extra liquid, it just runs down into that container. No big deal for anything. And with that, we are almost ready here. So there's one last thing you always have to do, and that is you got to cover your food. So I do have some bedding I can pull from the side here a little bit to kind of cover it, but I'm going to have to add more bedding. And the bedding I'm going to add is going to be dry, and then I can kind of get it wet once it's in there. Actually, hold on, I got to bring over my container that has all my bedding in it, because there's a lot of bedding that I'm going to have to add to this. I realize now. I forget how big these systems are sometimes. So, and why do you want to cover your bedding? Well, the bedding is where it kind of protects it from any bugs or anything, and I don't expect a lot of bugs to get in here. It's been pretty good, these systems, as far as keeping bugs out, well, as long as they're currently out of the system. And I also, of course, have my little bug catcher in here as well that I'm going to put back in the corner. And that's it for the extra paper. And I just keep a shredded container of paper ready to go to add to my systems. I found that's the easiest thing to do, so I'm not shredding it as I go. I just shred it when I get the time, and then I just add it when it's ready. And with that, I'm going to add a little bit more water to this. Just kind of sprinkle it on here. Just so there's a little bit of water on top, especially where that white paper is. That stuff will tend to stick together, but it also can soak up quite a bit of water. And I want to make sure that there's enough water in the system for the worms, you know, because that's how they breathe, as I said before. And again, If you have any questions or comments or suggestions on anything, let me know down below. I like hearing them, and I like responding to comments as well. I haven't been as good with it lately, but I'm trying to get better with responding as I have a little bit extra time currently. But with that, thank you for watching. Again, if you have questions, leave a comment down below. And